Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 413, How to Grow Your Plant-Based Business with Violette De Ayala.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Violette De Ayala about how to network and grow your plant-based business. The truth is, it really doesn't matter if your business is vegan, plant-based, or not, but the things that you do to be able to create connection and make more money and have more time freedom is really all the same, and if you do it positively, it will have a big impact in the world. We talk about the need for failure and how to grow, how to meet people and network with them, and really the unique characteristics of networking groups and what to look for if you're looking for one yourself. Violet is a personal friend. She's actually a mentor, and I'm so thrilled and honored to be able to have her on the show. The way that she nurtures her network and the people who she works with is incredible, and I love what I learned from her. She has a great ability to see big picture, connect with other people, and really listen to her clients' needs. It's very inspirational. I hope you find these little nuggets today and that you are able to connect more with others and achieve more good in this world.
Violet is a Cuban-American serial and social entrepreneur, founder of Fem City women's networking groups, and international best-selling author of The Self-Guided Guru, Lessons for Everyday Humans. With a strong background in PR, she also served as part of the White House Women Environmental Leaders Program and is a former advisor for City of Miami Mayor's Office for 2 administrations. She's been featured in various magazines and broadcasts, including CTV and People's Magazine, and has been the keynote speaker at many widely known events. There's a lot of great information in this episode on how to connect and network with others, so have a listen, share it out, and enjoy the show.
If you're a female business owner or you need to acquire your own clients, I would love for you to join me at Fem City. Fem City is for women looking to be part of a community that's positive, uplifting, and really concentrates on gratitude and soul. The members come from all around the world with diverse backgrounds, and it is a huge part of my thriving business and my growing mindset. To find out more about how to join Fem City, click the link in our show notes because we have a special discount for you.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I am grateful for the work you did in the yard and how you remulched and the beautiful flowers are growing. And I really do appreciate you making that area a sanctuary for our family.
Well, thank you. I am grateful for the opportunity to get out and go for runs with a friend. It's been a while since I've run with someone, so it's been nice to be able to do that again. Hoping to do more of that.
I ran you to the corner the other day.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Awesome. Violette De Ayala, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's super special to me because you're always interviewing me for workshops and classes that I'm giving. So it feels a little different being on the other side of the microphone. And Adam's kind of like, what have these two girls been talking about for the last 10 minutes already? But that's okay. That's all right. He'll get into it. Before Adam has a chance to speak, do you have a moment of gratitude that you want to share with us and our listeners?
Yes, I think right now, what I'm feeling is, my journey in this entrepreneurial world has been so turbulent. And I'm finally today really recognizing that all of those moments of just pain and grit and just climbing my way to where I am, I'm so grateful for those moments because I'm able to connect with so many other entrepreneurs that are on that journey. And I can feel what they're going through. And I just remember myself being part of that, in time. And it makes it so that my work can be more profound as it impacts them. So that's what I'm really grateful for today. We discussed it today on one of our discussions about, the benefit of failure and the beauty in failing. And that to me, it just reminds me of it was so worth it because now I can help so many more people knowing what it's like.
So does that mean that people need to go through failure opportunities to be able to grow?
I believe so. And it doesn't have to be failure, like you lose everything and now you're living in a box and you're destitute. It can just be losing a tremendous amount of money or not getting that job or having a situation where you don't know which way to go. I mean, there are stages of and different variations of what quote unquote failure. But I think at that moment when we kind of feel like at a loss, or we feel like, now what? How am I going to go on? Or what do I do to continue? In that moment, there's a really beautiful place of growth and a really great place to collect wisdom and then to move forward in a bigger impact for others. So I think that's part of, at least with my own story, I have seen that pattern where you kind of get to that point and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. This is going to be horrible. And then from that perspective, you can see the world in a different way and see the blessing in that space and then move forward in another direction. And that's usually the path that perhaps you should have been on all along.
And I think sometimes it's about being able to take responsibility for that as well and saying, here's the mistakes that I made leading up to it. Here's where I might want to listen to my intuition a little bit better next time, or here's my reminder. Or it's like the opposite of the why, right? Like in business, we always say, what's your why? Why are you going for it? But, sometimes you need to remember where you can be with what's the opposite of your why and never go back there too.
Absolutely. And one of my biggest failures, and I'm using that loosely because now we're talking about failure and its benefits, but one of my biggest failures was closing my Pilates studio. I ran that studio for almost a decade and that I couldn't scale it into other cities. I mean, I had locations and I had satellite locations, but I was never able to launch that Pilates studio in multiple markets because the brand was all around Violette and everyone wanted to take class with Violette. And I closed that studio, liquidated everything. I couldn't give it away. I mean, it was profitable. It was making a ton of money, but no one wanted to take it over because it had this branding that was Violette, which by the way, it wasn't even named Violette, but I felt for so many years like a complete failure. And now when I started Fem City, I look back, I started Fem City over 10 years ago. I made sure that I didn't repeat the same patterns. I didn't make it about Violette. I made sure that it was scalable. I created a plan to make it so it could be around the world. That would have never happened had I not had that experience of running that studio for so many years and then quote unquote failing, right? Not being able to sell it, not being able to scale it to other countries or other states or just down the street, So that's one of my biggest failures that turned out to be one of the biggest blessings because I would have never been able to do the work that I'm doing now.
And we want to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing now, but I also want to talk about the plant-based journey that we always talk about, but also thinking about failure in terms of your plant-based journey. And so many of our listeners, of our clients, of people out there have gotten on the plant-based journey and then they've had what they would call a failing moment, right? They've eaten from the cheese platter or they decided to, have the steak and then they don't feel well or their inflammation comes back or their symptoms come back. And that can be a good thing too, because then they're like, now I know that I'm on the right track. Now I know that I got to do more of what I'm going to do, where I have this reminder feeling, this literally this awful feeling in my stomach to remind me of what could happen again next time. And sometimes it feels like a failure because nobody believes in you or nobody's telling you that they've got your back. But when you persevere and get through it, just about everybody has some kind of positive story with a plant-based lifestyle.
Absolutely. For myself, I started going really plant-based in 1987, 1988. So my father had a lot of heart issues and had to do the heart surgery. And it was just always I just remember as a child, just hearing about his heart attacks and all of the problems he was having with his heart and his cholesterol and his blood pressure. And back then, there's nothing around but Shape magazine or books from the library, not even from the library, from the bookstore. Encyclopedias or the nutritional almanac that was 7 inches. It was a huge big block that you could actually do a significant amount of weight training with. And that's when I decided to not eat any more red meat. So that was the first step into that place. And then calling myself vegetarian. And I remember being the only child in high school that was vegetarian. And then I remember moving when we got married after college, moving to North Carolina, and then being the only vegetarian that most people had ever met. So every time we'd go to a dinner party, not eating this, not eating that, kind of being made fun of, honestly, just totally being made fun of. And then when we had kids, serving them tofu dogs instead of regular hot dogs. And even my son, when he was in kindergarten, learning how to pronounce the word organic, he was like, why does all my food have this word on it? And going against the mainstream of what people were talking about and kind of being that freak, of she doesn't eat this and she doesn't eat that. And from that point, just tweaking it along the way, and getting diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and then having asthma as a young child. And then, of course, I had some injuries, tearing my back out and torn ACL. So kind of this journey of just using my body more and kind of it deteriorating a little bit more, tweaking it and saying, you know what, now the cheese doesn't feel so good. So eliminating that cheese. And then maybe feta is okay. Oh, feta is not so good. So I think for myself that it's always been plant-based, but seeing now that there's more that my body is not happy with and removing that still. And so for myself, it's still an evolution in many ways, but it always is centered towards plant-based. And one of the tips that you shared with me a couple months ago, Shoshana, that I love is that how can you incorporate more greenery in your life? How can you look at something and say, okay, that's a beautiful vegetable sandwich. Could I add another leaf of spinach, or could I add a green pepper? Or could I add, a Vidalia onion? How do you get more of that into your life? And anyway, so it's been a beautiful journey, but it's not perfect.
For a lot of people, it's perfect for a while, and then boom, something happens, right? So you've got to tweak it, and maybe that onion's not good anymore. If you think about eating vegetables, fruits, plants, nuts, seeds, legumes as an abundance mindset, and we'll probably talk about abundance mindset a little bit later on as well, then, you're able to have more to choose from, so that if you do need to say goodbye to something for a short period of time or a long period of time, you don't feel like you're left with nothing too.
I think it has a lot to do with awareness and understanding your own body and learning more about it and figuring out what actually works for you as an individual, because we are all very different and some of us react very differently to certain foods. So being able to be aware is something, it's a skill, I think, that we need to all further develop. And it's not just when it comes to food. It relates to so many different aspects of our lives, just becoming aware of what we're doing and how we're navigating through life.
Absolutely. And also the shaming part of it. Sometimes I go out to dinner or lunch, and I feel like there's a little bit of a shaming, that goes on in society, where it's like if you order something without, like yesterday I ordered a salad without the feta cheese, right? So you kind of get that look from people. Or the other day, I gave up caffeine recently. I was never a big caffeine drinker, but I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it up. It's not really adding anything to my life. And ordering the other day at a coffee shop, this little French bistro down the street, and when I ordered, decaffeinated cappuccino with almond milk, she looked at me, she's like, what? And so I wish that there was also a little bit more grace in the way that people just recognize that some things don't work for all people, and it's okay to ask for modifications when you're out, that, each body is different, and just to be not asking questions like, why are you not eating feta, or what's going on with your caffeine? And just knowing yourself, knowing it's an evolution, you're going to tweak it along the way, but also then recognizing that in others and just saying that's their story, that's their journey. Who am I to be like, well, why are you, why are you so difficult to have lunch out with,
That's a whole other conversation of just being kind to other people and being up in your own business instead of other people's business. And if we did more of that when it came to coffee or feta cheese, then we could do more of that when it comes to race and gender, right? So we
exactly.
We've got to practice this daily. It's got to be a practice. But I want to change gears a little bit now, and I want to talk about business, and I want to talk about networking, because we have most of our listeners are, if not plant-based already, on their journey, or listening because they want that journey to pick up and to take. And a lot of people have become nutrition coaches or athlete coaches in some way, or a lot of people are just plant-based or vegan and have their own companies and want to be able to grow their company. I'm going to make a good assumption that if you're plant-based, if you're vegan, then you want to do more for the world, right? Than just sell your product or sell your service. So I want to give everybody an idea of what they can do to be able to grow their business, focus on networking. And I mean, you basically change gears. Tell us first a little bit about how you started a networking company.
So I actually owned a PR agency before I started FemCity. I owned a PR agency that just specialized in environmental initiatives and bicycle initiatives here in the city of Miami. And my work was all about that, is how to raise the issues that are going on, how to bring people together to create really magnificent campaigns to bring awareness to what's happening on Earth. And was the publicist for Earth Hour, which is a really big campaign here in the United States and in Latin America. And so starting FemCity was really just on the side. I was craving something more for myself. I was actually thinking about running for office at the time and was just looking for just a place just to have someone tell me like what their thoughts were, or to help me with a contact or whatever it is I was going through at that time. I just was craving community. And after a couple of years of going to all these networking events in Miami, which are amazing. I mean, Miami definitely knows how to throw parties from any size, and the swag bags were always amazing, and the entertainment. But I always left feeling deflated and just always was craving something more. And so I just by chance was like, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm just going to start a little group. We'll just meet once a month. It'll just be 20 women and we'll just be there to support each other. And that was really fun at the beginning. It was not perfect, by the way. Our first event, I think, was really boring. Our second event had 60 women, which I couldn't control that. It was so many people that it was just hard to navigate a program. And towards the end of that year, women started asking for Fem City in their communities. We were on Facebook. We had no monetization. We had no business model. I was really doing well with my PR agency. I was getting more and more clients and just going with my intuition saying, I think this is where my calling is. I think this is where I need to go. And so that's really how I started Fem City. It wasn't any kind of like, oh, I'm going to be brilliant and create this, worldwide movement. It was really just, well, this feels really good and it feels purposeful. And I think I have a lot of value, and I've always wanted to give back to other women in business. And I know what it's like to start a business with 2 pennies and raising a family and not knowing, how to start a business, not having gone to any Ivy League or MBA school. So that's really how I started what I do now. And I'm so grateful that it was horrible at the beginning, right? Getting rid of my clients and closing that, making a lot of money into making no money, and then pouring my own cash into that for many years. It was just worth it. It was really worth it. I'm so happy about everything.
Well, I'm very grateful that you did that. I'm, of course, part of Fem City, and I'm starting the Canada East Collective, and you have classes that are run by Global Femmes every week, and virtual networking that we have on Wednesdays, and then we meet with our own collectives once a month too. So there's so much it's so much more than just what I'm saying here. It really is a community of heart-centered powerhouse women who are looking to build each other up, give each other referrals if it feels right. There's nowhere in Fem City have I ever heard you need to give referrals to somebody or anything like that, but you get to know people so much that you want to, right? That you want to. So what I want is to know, how do the people listening, how do they network? How should they be reaching out to people, and how can they be building up their plant-based and vegan businesses so that they have more money to be able to give to the charities of their choice, or step back from business a little bit and go volunteer on a farm, or whatever it is that they want to do?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you do well in business because humans do business with humans they love. And you can even add to that they love, know, and trust. And so the first thing I would say is just do something to meet people. So, I know we're still in this pandemic. It's hard to physically meet people, but there are so many Facebook groups that you can become a part of. There are so many summits that are going on as well. You also have now Clubhouse. So there are so many ways to meet people. So I would kind of start out with just baby step goals and just think about meeting 1 new person a day. And once you have that going, then meeting 2 new people a day. That's a great place to just kind of get into that mode. Specifically, if you're an introvert, that might be really stressful. So that's where that 1 a day is really good. Just, you just reach out to someone and just get to know them on Clubhouse or on LinkedIn or on the Facebook group. The second part of that is to be of service. So when you do meet someone who's new, instead of going in and just asking for the business, which a lot of us, it's good to get money, it's good to have business, but you don't want to just start off a relationship with like, oh, it's so great to meet you, Shoshana. You need to hire me. That's not going to work. And I don't know where along the way people thought that, because I see that on Facebook groups and on LinkedIn all the time. You join, you get on LinkedIn, you have someone who requests, to connect with you, you accept that. And 2 seconds later, they send you a pitch and it's like, hey, hire me. I'm so great. And it's off-putting, and it makes that person look really, it's just not the best way to do that.
Just interrupting you to let you know that since joining Fem City, which is more than just a networking group, I've tripled my client base, and I have my book coming out that became a #1 bestseller, and that happened so much more smoothly. And I know it's because of the support from my fellow Fem City women who I network with, mastermind with, and grow with. Fem City supports heart-centered women around the world to connect, collaborate, and collectively succeed in business. There's There's gratitude, purpose, and positivity in everything that happens within the community. And I would love for you to check it out. I am now a collective leader for a Canadian North American virtual collective, and I would love to see you there. To find out more about Fem City, click the link in the show notes and you will get a big discount, and you could always reach out to us for more information. Now back to the show.
Instead, use the approach of, as an example, hey, Shoshana, I heard your podcast and I really love it. I'm such a huge fan. Thank you so much for all you do. If there's ever anything I can do to support your podcast, let me know. Starting off with that, it makes it so that that person, about that person, you're sharing about that person, you're giving them, love, and you're just offering yourself. And then stay in touch with them. That's the other part of that, is stay in touch. Every once in a while, send out, and I'm using it as an example, Shoshana, but if I were to make friends with you on LinkedIn, maybe like 2 weeks from now, I'd send you a link to, perhaps a summit that's plant-based. And I say, Shoshana, I think you'd be a great speaker. You should totally apply to be a speaker at this summit. I think you'd be great. So again, being of service to that person. Continue to have those relationships, reaching out, being of service, because eventually one day, and again, I'm using you as an example, eventually one day, Shoshana will have an opportunity that comes across and you will be one of the first few people that she thinks of because you've been there of service. You've reached out to them. You've gotten to know them. That is the best way to form relationships. And you never know how business is going to come to you. Sometimes we're like, oh, I sent a referral to Shoshana, but she didn't send me one. It may not come through Shoshana. It may come through somebody else, but just setting that energy out there to be of service, it always comes back to you. But putting people first, you can make a lot of money and you can make great impact by being heart-centered. That's another, I think people don't recognize that. They think they have to be cold-hearted and get out there, make those phone calls, and that's great, but do it with heart. Get to know the people, be of service, and it will always come back to you.
So if somebody could go online to all these different social media accounts and introduce themselves randomly to people and try to be of service to people, what is the benefit of them actually getting into a networking organization? Like, why bother if I could just do it on my own?
Yeah, you could do it anywhere. I've made friends. I always laugh. Like I made great friends with this woman who turned out to be my carpool partner when my son was in high school. I've made great business relationships walking my dog down the street. So you can literally make friends everywhere. There really is no place you cannot make friends. Any networking organization, what it does is it has a format for you to make friends. It's like an app, but in real life. And so going gives you the opportunity. Everyone that's there is ready to make connections also. Everyone that's there is looking to refer and to get referrals. So that's the only difference, is that the theme and the stage is already set up for that. But honestly, we can make friends everywhere. And I encourage everyone to do that. You just make it a point to meet one new person a day, and it will really change your life.
I also like it because it brings you back to the same people all the time. So if we're walking we don't have a cat anymore. If we're walking our goat, we don't have a goat. If we're walking our dog and you see somebody once, you're never guaranteed.
Fish, but we don't walk our fish.
If you're swimming with your fish, you're never guaranteed to see the other fish swimmer again, right? So you're right. We're all there for a reason. We're all there. We don't have our backs up saying, oh no, she's going to give me her business card. I think business cards are very out the window at this point, but because we're all kind of there for the same reason, and it gives you an opportunity to get to know everybody a little bit more deeply each time, right? You see them over and over again. The other thing about LinkedIn or Facebook that you were talking about before is, get to know them and make connection, but don't do it too strong. And I see what some people do out there, and hey, how are you? I love your page. I love that you have your book launch. It looks really cute. Congratulations. Thank you. I noticed that you have two, and then it went into, I noticed that you have two different niches. It must be really difficult to market to two niches at the same time. Or do you find that you're making enough money in your business? And I was like, hold on. We're moving way, like we just went from like a little wave through the window to like our fifth date. And I'm like, you've got to move it. You've got to move the pins slowly too. Although there will be people you'll hit it off with, but normally you hit it off with people in person speaking, not necessarily in a cold Facebook message. So I appreciate it and I get it, but it can be off-putting too, which makes them not want to continue in the conversation as well.
Absolutely. And basically the Facebook activity is really just commenting and being of service of people like that are commenting and sharing. But I love that you mentioned that. The other day we had this email that came through, and it was someone who ripped apart our website. And at the bottom, she was like, but you should hire me. I can fix it. Right. And so there's that, going out of your way, but then also like really being intense about it, which my husband says she was catfishing, which I didn't realize you could catfish in that scenario, but, just joining just to get in and then looking for an opportunity there to do business. But, being authentic, being heart-centered, just being of service and allowing that relationship to flourish and to nurture, because it will come back to you. If you stay front of mind of that person, when an opportunity comes around, like I give the most opportunities to the women in the global program. Why? Because I see them all the time. I see them every day. I know what they're looking for. I know I can help them. So when I have a lead that comes through for Wall Street Journal looking for, a hairdresser to give tips on hairstyles outside of Zoom or whatever it is, I know exactly who to send that to because we've developed those relationships. We've nurtured that. And that's the difference between that networking format versus just out in the street. If I was walking my dog and my neighbor comes over, I'm not going to go right into, but we talk about the dogs, and then eventually we'll talk about what we do. And then eventually we'll talk about what, and then eventually it turns into a sale or a lead.
I'm going to guess that there are many different network organizations out there. How does somebody choose one to be a part of, or how do they know what to look for when choosing their organization that they're going for?
That's a great question. I would say to try all of them out. If something feels good to you when you see something about it, whether it's an advertisement or if it's a website or a friend mentioned something about it, I would try everything and see how you feel when you go. It's like when you're looking for a school for your child, everyone has good things to say about certain schools and then bad things to say about certain schools. And there's good and bad, and there are fits and there are not fits. And so, show up, go, try it out, and see how you feel. If it makes you feel good, if you're making friends with people that are like you, then it's a good fit for you. If you go and you're feeling like they're super aggressive, or it's not feeling, you feel like uncomfortable and you're not knowing anybody, and you'll know on the inside if it's a good fit for you or not. Hopefully you find one or two, but not all of them are going to be good fits, and that's okay.
And some people do have multiple ones that they go to. Some people like to be men and women together. Some people like just women, just men. I know that we're all kind of zoomed out. I love being on Zoom right now. Like it works for me because I think the thought of getting in the car to go see people publicly is kind of, I'm going to have to do some tapping around that. It's bringing up some feelings. But yeah, there's definitely different ones. So what should people look for beyond just being comfortable with the people when they're looking for an organization to network within?
I think even the messaging. Before I started Fem City, the last networking event that I went to was a women's networking event. And this was in 2008, so quite a bit ago. And I remember going, and it was a women's networking, and I'm having this $100 lunch, which is really overpriced, but I'm going because I want to make, and it was a great networking group. I used to make a lot of contacts there. And the speaker is a male dentist. And so I'm eating my super expensive $100 plate of, food, and watching this guy give a presentation of, dental decay. And he's got slides, and I'm like, what am I doing? And then I start getting upset because I'm like, I've got two friends that are female dentists. That would have been great to be a speaker at this. And so, that was the last time I went to that. And so sometimes you'll know it's a good fit based on pretty much the energy, the people, the branding, the messaging, the word, the curriculum, the programming. And sometimes it's a really good fit, and then sometimes it's not a good fit anymore. And that's okay. Sometimes you grow out of it, or you move, or whatever it is. So I think just staying in touch with that. Does it make you feel good? Does it bring you joy? Is it working for you? Are you getting something out of it financially as well? Those are all the questions to ask when you show up, and kind of keep, just as long as I show up. That's the other thing, is that you need to show up. You can't just join a networking organization and then just like sit at home and be like, well, nothing's happening. Just show up, participate, engage, again, be of service, and see how you feel.
And I think that comes from the top as well. So then you might, and it's funny because I was having this conversation this morning with a friend, and I was saying, like, out of the hundreds of people who I've networked with in the last 3 years, there's been 2 or 3 where I've been like, I never need to talk to them again, right? Like they're not my people kind of thing. Not that I talk to everybody 100 times over, but there's been people where I've definitely been like, not my cup of tea, goodbye, thank you. And you can't necessarily judge a whole organization based on that, but you do a really great job in Fem City of creating a really nice atmosphere. I know it's not the mantra, but for me, it's like powerhouse women who want to build each other up with the side of woo, right? Like everybody's got their own like, like spiritualness or, not religion, but like spiritualness, or they do tapping, or they want to eat foods that are like just taken right out of the ground. Everybody's got their own like little thing, even if it's not their business. But yeah, so what is the ethos? What is the mantra? And it might work for you for a period of time, and then it might not. And I've seen some that have had business partners, and then the partners have a bit of a tiff. So it kind of breaks up the group. And then once they each get settled, both groups are actually really nice again. Like they've separated and both groups actually ended up really, really nice again. So sometimes there's an energy that doesn't last very long, but yeah, look to the top and see who's leading it too. I think that could be really helpful for people as well.
And I love how you shared it. So, we came up with our slogan a couple of years ago, business for your soul. And we added that because we wanted to make sure that the women that join Fem City all understand that it's heart-centered, that it's about the connectivity to others. It's not just about seeing how many business cards you can pick up and how many emails you could add to your database. It really is about being soulful and intentional about your business development and your business growth. So I'm sure we get a lot of people that probably don't join because they see that, right? They're like, business for your soul. What is that? But I think our members are definitely multifaceted when it comes to business and being heart-centered and with a touch of woo-woo, like you were saying. And also, just like every friendship or relationship, sometimes people evolve. And that's okay too. You don't have to be best friends with everyone. There are many people that, we all meet, and for some reason we connect more with one. Like I always find it so interesting. Like when I introduce other friends and they become best of friends. Like I have one that was a friend of mine who's a shaman, Nora Cabrera, and I introduced her to one of our Fem City Global members, and they surpassed our friendship. They then became best friends. And I love that, like they themselves. And so sometimes you have that connection with others, and then sometimes you don't. And it's okay. We don't have to be best friends with everyone. It's okay to just kind of be in the present. If it feels right for right now, it's good.
I also find networking for some people have become an escape from their own lives sometimes. So, there's that quote, you're the sum of the five best people you spend time with, right? And sometimes you don't have those people in your family or in your group of friends, or maybe you live out in the country and, you're all alone and you don't have an opportunity to meet new people. So this is an opportunity for some people, it's social. I've been to networking groups where people have said, I don't really have a business. I don't really do anything. I'm just, here for the connections, right?
Yeah. And when we started Fem City Honolulu a couple of years ago, our leader at the time had quantified how many businesses we had started based on our programming there. And it was something ridiculous. It was like 50 businesses within a short period of time. And that's the power of telling our stories. That's the power of sharing what we're going through, also mentoring each other, finding that support system, so that sometimes you think to yourself, well, I can't do that. But then you meet someone who's done it and you're like, well, she looks like me, or she has the same background. She was able to do it. That means I can do it too. And so we see a lot of that, which is where that support system, it's important for you to definitely spend time with the people around you that are at that same level or above the level that you want to achieve, because it'll help to pull you up. And stories inspire us. They motivate us. They make it so that it's possible. And that inspires us to just keep on that track that we were almost about to give up on.
For our listeners who are looking to start getting into this, to start to network with others around them, if there's a way to do that that's local to them, like how would they find this? What if they don't have any groups that are local? Like, is it all online? Is it going to be in person? Does it work both ways? How do they figure that out?
Well, for Fem City, so we do virtual and we also do local curriculum programming. So we have both. But I don't know about other chambers. I know there are lots of chambers. Hopefully there's a chamber in everyone's community. I know that's not possible sometimes, but I think one of the good things that's happened since 2020 is that there's a lot more possibilities to connect on certain platforms, that at least if you don't have that in your backyard, if there's not any access to it, that there's a way that you can find it. I know when I was younger and starting a business, I didn't have any mentors. And we were living in a suburban area, and I was raising kids, and I didn't have access to that. So my mentors were people that I found on TV, like reading the books of people that had accomplished great things and just diving into that until I could actually find humans that I could have in my life. But for the short term, it was like Oprah Winfrey, and it was like, a couple of people like on TV, because that's all we had, that at least I could use their stories to inspire me to move forward. So if you're watching this or listening to this, you have access to really great people that can help you to move forward to that next level until you find your group of people in real life.
And I'd say people can Google networking groups in your area. You can check on Meetup is another great way to find. And local. Is it Chamber of Commerce or Chamber of? How would they look up their chamber?
So when I lived in North Carolina and I was starting my first business, it was a personal training business. I remember having AOL, it was so long ago. And I remember putting in there networking or business. And I remember it pulled up whatever was going on in my neighborhood. And if there's not anything in your neighborhood, I would encourage you to start one, because if you're looking for one, chances are 4 other people might be looking for one too. And that would be great to start a community, whether it's just always impacting 10 people. That's fantastic too. It doesn't have to be a huge, hundreds of people. Just get started and be there for other people. Create that platform.
If anybody wants to learn a little bit more about FemCity, if they want to drop us an email at info@planttrainers.com or reach out to me personally on Facebook or wherever, I'm happy to answer your questions and to help you kind of look and see if that's something that would be good for you. I know that my book launch was so much smoother because of it, because of the support of the Fems and the support of you, Violet. So thank you on that. And networking in general over the last 5 years has been amazing for me. And I love what we're doing in FemCity too. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for your time today. If people want to learn a little bit more about you, where can they go?
To learn more about me, you can go to violetteayala.com. And it was just so lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I follow you guys on Instagram as well. And I just love the work that you are doing. So thank you so much. It was really wonderful. Thank you,
Violet. I really think that there's a lot of benefit to so many of our listeners, whether they're male or female, men or women. I don't think it matters. Yes, your FemCity's directed towards women, but every man knows a good woman that needs it. So thank you for sharing.
But lots of tips just in general, how to get your business out there, and let's get more people voting with their dollars for your business that's either plant-based or run by a plant-based person. And that's important to us.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.